So this is going to be a quick tutorial to show you this sort of technique to help give you some inspiration. It's a technique that is used a lot in 80s and 90s sort of house music. And yeah, here it is. So yeah, anyways, it's a interesting sound, and it's a lot of fun to mess around with. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up a new window because we're going to be resampling in this, and I need to show you how to set that up in your Reason to make it easier. In Reason 5 and newer, they make it really easy because they give you an actual like sampling input. So we're going to be utilizing that in this video. So this first instrument that we're going to be using, if we're going to be using an NNXT, that is what is going to be housing our sort of different layers of sounds, and it's going to sort of shape this synth. And so yeah, before we get started, we need to set up the resampling. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip the rack around. This may look a little bit different if you're in a older version of Reason, but if you're in 5 or newer, you should have a sampling input. So we're going to, as long as you have that, this will make sense. If you don't, there are ways of doing it, but it's a little bit challenging. So I'm just going to stick with this way for now. So I'm going to disconnect the sampling input from there. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the master out, which is going into our audio I/O, and we're going to take that, put that into a Spider audio merger splitter. We're going to take the split signal and put it back into the I/O so that we can hear it. But then we're also going to take that audio and send it into the sampling input. So now whenever we want to sample something that is in our Reason, all we have to do is play it back, and we can hit one of the sampling buttons and it will start sampling it. So now that we've done that, we can start building up our sound. For the sound that you heard earlier, I used two different sort of synth sounds. One was a choir-ish sound, and the other one is just sort of pad. You can use whatever you want. I suggest experimenting around, but I'm going to just do it how I did it in the example. So the first one I use is actually something from the Reason Factory Sound Bank. All you have to do is Reason Factory Sound Bank, go to Combinator Patches, go all the way to Voice and Choir, and then it is this Lush Choir. You could try out these other ones or any other patch, but the Lush Choir is what I used. Lush Choir sounds like this. It has a sort of slow attack, which is not normally something we want for this type of synth, but I'll show you how we can sort of get around that when we actually start messing with it. So now that we found a sound that we want, we have to decide on a chord that we want to play. In the example, I used a minor chord, and that's how you get that sort of dark and hardcore house sound. If you go major, then you're sort of more upbeat and sort of everybody dance now, that like sort of sound. Or you could go a little bit more jazzy and do like 7 chords, or really anything you want. But sort of choose one and stick to it as you layer. Otherwise, you might not get what you want. So now that we have that sound, all I have to do is hit the sample button and play my chord. I just played it for a little bit and then let go. And then I go into the edit window, do some basic cropping, normalize it. What I was saying earlier about having a slow attack, you can see that here. It takes a little bit to get to full volume. To fix that, we're just going to cut off that part. And so I'm going to select this bit, crop it. Now you can see it goes right into the full volume part, which is what we want for this sound. So then I'm going to select the end, fade out. That's just something I always do. And now we're done with that. Now we're going to add on another part. This one is going to be a synth pad. You could find one in the Reason Factory Sound Bank, but this is actually a pretty easy pad to make, so I'm just going to do it really quick. A couple multi-oscillators just to get a really sort of wide sound. Turn them all on, adjust the resonance up a little bit, envelope up. I'm going to detune them from each other a little bit. Bring up the envelope settings, then turn on the chorus and delay. And that's what we want. So now, I'm going to route this through a second oscillator just to cut out a little bit of those highs. Turn off the envelope, and yeah, that's good. So anyways, now we have that sound. I'm going to layer this into the synth as well. So I'm going to hit the sample button and then play the same chord that I played earlier, except with this sound. Again, play it and then let it play out a little bit and then release. I'm going to crop it. This has a good attack, so I don't really need to work with that. I'm going to normalize it and then just fade out, because I always do that. And now we have our two samples in here playing the same chord, different sounds though. So now if I go select my NNXT, then I can play it. And we have our basic sound. One thing that I did in the other example is I adjusted the octave of one of these. You can mess around with that, changing the root notes by an octave. I'm going to actually select the second one, that is the synth, and bring the root note down, which will make the pitch go up. And we have our basic sound. Now, in the example I played, I added a little bit of effects, so I'm going to just go ahead and add a scream. You can do whatever distortion you like. I like the tube distortion. I'm going to add a little bit of reverb. Bring down dry wet. And we have our sound. And that's pretty much it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to mess around with, and there's a lot of room to experiment using different sounds that you're putting into it. You don't have to use 2 sounds. You could use 1 sound. You could use 10 sounds. Really, the sky's the limit with this. It helps to use the same chord when you're playing from sound to sound. Otherwise, you will just get sort of mush. But if you stick to the same sound, and you can get all sorts of interesting, intense sounds. And yeah, I'm just going to go back to that other project just to show you some other examples of this exact same synth with the same things put into it, but with different chords. So here's the minor one. Here's a major one. And then here's a 7 one. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a cool sound to throw into a song. And anyways, that's it. Hopefully you got something out of it. Thanks.